I love her emphasis on the people before the technology. That's probably a good segue to Peggy. Our next topic, we've got about 40 minutes and then we'll hop into a break. But I asked Magenium Solutions and Peggy Martinez to join us. Peggy is a vice president there. And the reason is, as we've made this pivot away, like I mentioned earlier this morning, the buzzword of 2020 and 2021 was remote. The buzzword now is hybrid. How do we bring people at equity into these different experiences? I've worked with Magenium for the last year, several different organizations, helping them figure out their space design, the solutions, with that idea of the person in mind. And I'm setting you up for success here, Peggy. What I love, and, well, they're a certified partner for Microsoft, for other vendors on this space. The one thing that drives me a little crazy is if people are using sort of traditional facility vendors trying to figure out this online meeting experience, hybrid meeting experience. It reminds me, years and years ago, I used to do a lot of presentations for Microsoft in like a hotel ballroom or a conference center. And we would send over the spec list like to catering, and they would set it up. And invariably, they set up a screen and then put a podium right in front of the screen and then like a table for my projector, right? The person did a good job. They just weren't thinking about the use case, how it was going to be used. And so I had to, in my 1990s double-breasted suit with suspenders, dragging stuff around to rearrange it. And so what I want to kind of encourage everyone, as you're thinking about the hybrid space, consider working with one of our partners like Magenium. They do a great workshop to kind of help flush this stuff out, figure it by use case. The answer to everything is not a Microsoft Surface Hub. There's a lot of different solutions based on need that we're going to talk about next. So, okay. Ma'am, how's that for a setup and a segue? Can I hand it over?
Well, Nick, that was just great. I couldn't have asked for anything better. And Nick, what I like to tell people, what's really changed is technology is driving that experience in the room, and then that the hardware is just complementing it. So hopefully that's what people will see, and we'll go through that, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to people about how they can make these hybrid meetings better for people that are remote and in the office.
Awesome. So, while you're doing that, quick housekeeping, I will drop a screenshot of our agenda into the meeting chat. So we've got Peggy up now until 11:30 Central, 12:30 Eastern. Then we'll do a 15-minute break, sponsored by Minnesota Rapid Rescue. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then we'll come back and do our roadmap, panel discussion, and breakouts. Thanks, Peggy. You have the floor.
So can everybody see my screen?
Yes, hybrid meetings and Microsoft Teams rooms.
Yes, yep. Yes. Okay, great. Let me just get situated here so that I can be. All right, just see. Oops, sorry about that. Just getting on the right screen here. Okay, let's get started. Hybrid work. This is what everyone has been talking about, right? So for the past couple of years, most of us have been working from our home offices. And now, as we know, more and more people are heading back to the office. So pre-pandemic, let's talk about that for a minute. Before the pandemic, most people were in the office and they were meeting in conference rooms, right? Or meeting spaces. But most of the time, it didn't have video in it. And it had just a phone in the middle of the room, and someone could be on that phone and dialing in remotely. But a lot of times people forgot that they were even in the meeting, or the person that was remote didn't have that opportunity to really speak up, or they felt it was hard to kind of interject. Well, then the pandemic happened, and then Teams happened, and it just leveled the playing field for everyone. So now, as everyone's been working remotely for the past 2 years, we all have this equal real estate, and we all can see each other, and we're all talking, and there's all these great features that let us have this equalized space and meeting time. Well, now we're all going to start having some type of a hybrid work moving forward, right? So some people are going to be in meeting spaces, and some people will still be working remote, wherever you call remote, right? An airport, your office, at home, or in that new meeting space. So what do you have to consider because of this? So you want to be able to allow your users to have the same experience, whether they're working remotely or whether they're now working in your space, if they're coming back to your office. So the Teams rooms, they help remove that barrier between a physical space and the people and the virtual space, right? So it fosters this inclusivity and collaborative meetings so that everybody can feel like they're still all together. Super easy to use. So I'm going to go over with you how you can have that same seamless experience, whether you're working out of your office at home or whether you're in a meeting space. The flexibility that these Teams rooms bring to you, the fact that you can make any space enabled with Teams rooms. And I'm looking forward to showing you that, all the different options there. And then lastly, they're secured by design, meaning you can keep things up to date and management of them, right? So as we move back into the office, how do you maintain that? How do you keep everything current? How do you monitor it? How do you manage it? So I'll touch on all of these areas. So maintaining that consistent experience. So what I want to remind you is here on the screen, you can see this is actually what a sample of a Teams room device looks like. But most importantly, what I want you to understand is that Microsoft designed that app that is on that device. So regardless of the manufacturer of the device, the experience is the same. So you have a native app by Microsoft that's on that device, and it delivers a predictable and familiar experience. So if you've been using Teams on your laptop remotely, when you move into the office, they'll have that same experience right there, that one-touch, easy to join experience. There are many manufacturers that make a device that look like that, but remember, as long as that device is certified by Microsoft, the experience will be the same. That's what's most important for you to know. And that device will receive consistent updates and new features because it is running the Microsoft application on it. So as people are in a room, so let's talk about that, right? When you're in a meeting space, not in your home office, there's a lot of things that you have to consider. There's many factors that go into it. And most importantly, you want high quality audio and video, right? So that even though you're in a meeting space in an office, the people that are remote, so that that's equal. So as people are back doing both, right? Microsoft created a new layout just recently called Front Row. Now, you may know, as you've been using, when you go up to the More button in your Teams app, you can see that there's different layouts that you can use. And this is a newer layout that just released that really fosters that experience where people are feeling connected. So what you can see down here is the people that are remote are now, the video is at the bottom of the screen, the content is right above them, and it brings in more experiences from the meeting. You could have agenda, you could have the task, it shows the meeting chat. Now, you may not always want to use this layout. You may want to use the traditional gallery layout. Maybe you just want to show video. The point is, you have all of these features that you can use while you're in your remote experience. Now you have that same experience in the meeting room. And we have customers that are designing the rooms to take advantage of this experience. Increased engagement with features, right? So as Nick has talked about and Karana has talked about, all these different features that are in Teams, you can still wirelessly share content. You can increase the understanding between your users regardless of where they're at. You can have attendees raise their hand, share their reactions, just like many of us have been doing throughout this meeting. And another thing to remember is your mobile device. Encourage all of your users to download the Teams app on their mobile devices. Hopefully they all are. But there's also, you can use that mobile device when you're in a meeting room. So all of the features, as you can see here on the screen, are in both modes, right? Whether you're on your mobile device in the meeting room or working remotely. Cultivating that real-time collaboration. Nick touched on this a little while ago when he showed what can happen with the whiteboarding and intelligent content capture. You know, you want people to feel like they can brainstorm and all work together, even no matter where they're working from. And a Teams meeting room allows you to do that. So as you can see, you can be writing on a meeting board and it will capture it in the meeting room. The AI that's processing this just refines it and enhances the ink so that the person is kind of, as you can see, that silhouette there, and then everyone can contribute and you can be remotely participating through the whiteboarding feature as well. Flexibility. So let's get into the meat of the actual rooms. When you're in these meeting rooms, as I mentioned, there's a lot of things that you have to consider. And many rooms are considered standard or kind of custom. So a couple of the rooms up here, we consider these kind of archetypes. So initially, when you are looking at your rooms, you might want to try and get to a point where you're like, hey, let's standardize on. We have huddle rooms, small rooms, medium rooms, large rooms. The good news is there's a wide range of audio and video devices that complement an MTR device. You can have multiple displays in a room, and you can have multiple peripherals. You could have an all-in-one device, and you can even bring in a Microsoft Surface Hub. I also want to mention the Teams Room devices are also built on the Android and the Windows platform. So depending on what your organization prefers, you have the option to do either. So as I mentioned, so when you're looking at devices, they come in a couple of different factors. So the first one is modular. So modular devices are when you have the Teams panel, which you can see here in the first column, and that's controlling the room. So you don't even have to leave your chair. That's controlling all of the peripherals that you have, the speakers, the microphone, the camera. And it allows you also to retrofit rooms that you already have. Maybe you have rooms that don't have video, so you want to add video to it. You want to add these factors, or you might have rooms that you want to change things out. And this is a great way to do that modular system because it's extremely flexible for a variety of size rooms. Then you have the integrated option. And the integrated option brings the speaker, the microphone, the camera, all to an all-in-one device. They're easy to deploy. They're easy to manage. Now, these devices that are all-in-one, you just have to work with, how large your room is and what that range might be. And these are all things we would go over with you or you would consider as you're deploying which devices make sense for your rooms. And then there's the all-in-one device, which is the Surface Hub. And the all-in-one device is great because you do have, not only the 4K video display, but it also includes the camera, the speakers, and the microphone. Now, a lot of times people wonder, how do I bring the Surface Hub in? And the Surface Hub can be used in a couple of different ways. One is you could use it as a standalone device. And it's really great in those collaborative spaces. Maybe you have an engineering team that's working together, and it's great for them because everyone wants to get up and stand up and be whiteboarding. Or you might have it where you want it in a room, an executive room, a board room, and you want it with an MTR device. So there is a feature to do coordinated joins. So you can have both an MTR device and a Surface Hub in a conference room. So the great news here is there's just a lot of different options that you have. And as you go through and look at each of the different types of meeting spaces you have, you would make that determination on what makes sense for that room and what does your budget hold, right? All of these come in different budgets. So I like to kind of show this slide because most organizations have a blend of different spaces. And what we're finding with most customers is today, they're really re-looking at their space as people come back to the office. So you could have a small space, medium rooms, large rooms. You could have that space where you're co-creating and collaborating, where it's very collaborative and intuitive with one another. You might just have the space where you present and you meet. It just depends on what use case you want. But the key is you have it, sorry, I'm jumping ahead there. You have it for any budget. And that's what's the best news here is you can retrofit these rooms, the Teams rooms, into a multitude of different spaces. And I do want to warn everybody, we haven't done meeting rooms yet where an executive didn't use one of these devices. And next thing you know, they're in the executive offices. And most times then all the executives want them in their offices too. So I also want to let you know that as you're looking at these room spaces, they aren't just confined to your typical standard meeting space. You can enable a Teams room with an MTR in a big multi-purpose room. You know, most organizations have an auditorium, a training room, a cafe, and you might have divisible walls. All of that can be handled and managed by using a Teams room device. The other thing is executive rooms. So I've touched on executive offices. We see it all the time where the executives want it in their office. We've even seen it in executive home offices, but also executive boardrooms. So when you're designing executive boardrooms or you're looking at, how do I want to add this to an executive boardroom? We're seeing people actually look at the furniture layout. They're looking at turning the room on by 180 degrees so that they can now have that equilibrium between the remote participants and the people in the room. So a little bit like it shows here in this executive room where you have like that U-shaped or horse-shaped table. And again, just at the bottom, these are the things that you really have to think about and consider when you have these larger spaces, where the cameras are there multiple cameras? The mic array, do you need speaker or lapel for speakers in the room? The camera, like the field of view, do you need 90 degree? Do you need 180 degree? There's all different options that you have. Cable management. How do I hide the cables? How am I running the cables? The acoustics in the room. Is the room all have windows on all four sides? The lighting in the room. Always there are windows in the room. Then we have to have shades. So there's just a variety of things that you have to think about, especially in these larger spaces. In your smaller spaces, much easier to kind of retrofit and deploy the Teams rooms quickly into those spaces. And these spaces just need a little bit more design time to put that together. I've added just a couple slides here, and I wanted to show you, this is another view of what that front row layout looks like. So it shows you here where on the top you have a dual display screen, and it's showing you how you have the content on one side. You can pin and or spotlight an individual, if maybe the CEO or the head of sales or just a manager is presenting, you can give that person a spotlight. And then all of the people that are remotely feel like, for the people that are in the room, they have that equal footing, right? That playing field where it's like, doesn't matter if you're remote or in the room. And then the bottom photo is really showing you the big LED screens. And these things are occurring more and more. Typically, you'll put these in some, executive areas where there's need to be meetings with the public, or the board meets. But these are just great options. And all of this can be done in small spaces as well. Here's another example of where you have dual screens, and what's actually on the outside of the two displays are surface hubs mounted to the room. And you see how they have that U-shaped table. You're just seeing more and more customers if they are redesigning, looking at potentially redesigning some actually with new furniture layouts as well. It's not necessary, but this is what some customers are looking at. So I mentioned the Surface Hub, and I just wanted to bring us back to that to mention that it is a great all-in-one Windows 10 device. It does allow you to collaborate from anywhere. The other thing is, I see many people or many clients buy the stand for it because it does give you the flexibility if you want to move it from room to room or office to office. So again, really a great use for this is in those collaborative spaces. Let's talk about, additional Teams room devices that you can add to the space. So as more and more clients are moving back to the office, we're seeing that more spaces are being reservable. So, there might be less people with a dedicated desk space because there's going to be more collaborative space. People will be going back into the office to collaborate with others. Well, as they have more and more rooms, these Teams panels are panels that sit outside of the room, and it allows you to glance to see the room if it's busy, if it's booked, or if it's available. So many organizations love this to add this to their meeting spaces. It also has a feature that's coming soon, where it'll even let you alert the people if you're waiting to get into a meeting space. It'll let the people in the meeting room know, hey, there's a meeting in here scheduled. You need to wrap up your meeting and kind of head out. So it is great. It is also a device. It's natively synced with Teams in your Exchange environment. You can also walk up to this device and book a meeting right on the device, book the room for yourself, or it allows you, if you're just walking by, to look and see how many meetings might be in there later that day. So just a nice, great add-on feature to meeting rooms. Another great flexibility that the MTR devices, the Microsoft Teams Room devices, have is the ability to join meetings from other than the Teams platform. So many organizations, you're working with companies and they might not be on the Teams platform. So what if you get invited to a Cisco WebEx meeting or a Zoom meeting, and you want to take it in a meeting space that is equipped with the Teams room? You can join an external meeting to the Teams room natively. So it's through this, what they call direct guest join. And all you have to do is forward the meeting to the device, and it's one touch join, and you're in that meeting. Some good news here is Microsoft is currently working on adding 2 more outside platforms natively to this direct guest join feature. So stay tuned. There's going to be 2 more that'll be rolling out hopefully later this year. But this is a great feature, and many organizations love it. So as I'm going to be wrapping up here, one thing I didn't want to, I wanted to definitely talk about was just briefly management and monitoring. So as customers are moving back into the office and as you put these devices into rooms, how do you manage them and how do you monitor them? And the great news is the license that you deploy onto these devices, there's two options, and one of them provides you with a proactive management and monitoring portal that allows you to have automatic updates, problem detection, resolutions at scale. It's a great feature that they have. And, you know, when you have 20 rooms, 30 rooms, 50 rooms potentially, how do you keep those all up to date, and how do you just make sure that the new features are being released properly to them? And what I did was I just wanted to share with you a dashboard that shows you all of the features that you can have and in monitoring and proactively managing these devices. It'll show you how many devices or rooms are online, if a room is unplugged, if something isn't happening in that room. It's the whole idea of proactively watching it versus reactively watching it. So just wanted to let you know this is a feature that is out there. So I know I'm got about 8 minutes left. Just three things I would like to leave you with, but before I give it back to Nick and see if there's any questions in the chat, it's three things when you're thinking about deploying Teams rooms. How do you make that experience seamless and easy to use? If you use the native Teams room device, again, regardless of the manufacturer, you will have that easy, seamless experience, one touch join, so that your users, it's no different for them coming from their laptop going to using this device. Number two, keep your room design simple, not complicated. That's what the premise of Teams rooms were built on, to keep it very simple so that the application is the same. You're not walking in the room going, how do I use this remote, or what cable do I have to attach? You don't need any of that. You join the meeting and you can wirelessly share your content. So keep things simple. And lastly, they are very easy to monitor and manage so that you can maintain them across your organization seamlessly. So Nick, I will,
Yeah,
are you out there?
I am. Well done. Let's see. We did get a few questions on like a whole bunch on interop,
Oh,
going both ways. So, you know, I've got a WebEx or a Zoom meeting, or, excuse me, WebEx or Zoom device. Can I join that to a Teams meeting, which kind of covered a little bit with the direct guest join, and then going the other way. I've got my Teams room. Do I want to? Actually, I may have just misstated that, but
right.
yeah. So the whole area of CVI, and just as a reminder, we do have a breakout with Pixip coming in to kind of go over their solution for this too, of which Magenium is an implementer.
Right.
Let me toss it back to you. You see, I'm confusing
Yeah,
myself.
I'll just talk about that. So
Both, all
as
platforms talking to everything. Yeah.
yes, you can. So that it's a great question, and I know our partner Pexip is talking later, but just at a high level for everyone to know, most organizations can't go in and change all their equipment at one time, right, Nick? So what I've seen organizations do is they'll start slowly and they'll deploy some Teams rooms. And so, but you're thinking to yourself, well, what do I do with all those other rooms that still have my old equipment in it? And that's where you can use a CVI, a cloud video interop like Pexip, and that will allow your legacy rooms to join easily with one touch to a Teams room. So you can do both, and it's a great transition for you as you maybe make that leap long term to Teams rooms throughout your organization.
Great. Thank you very much. I saw Jody, who manages our national alliance with them, just responded in chat as well.
Oh, good. Any other questions, Nick, or anything else? One thing, Nick, I wanted to mention, Microsoft just updated their work index for 2022. And one of the things that came out of it was how leaders and management are being tasked with making that commute to the office worth it for their employees, right? So, why do I want to go back to the office? And this is what organizations are kind of faced with. How do I enable spaces, whether they're with a native Teams room device or their legacy gear? How do I make it easy for users to keep using that great experience that they've been doing remotely?
That's a great point. I'll grab that and drop it into the ak.ms/meeting summit. By the way, that link I keep referring to, it's a Microsoft Office Sway. There's a chance your organization may be blocking it. I run into that from time to time because some people think it's like a consumer site or something. So I will also grab everything that's on there and send it out as a follow-up email after today too. So if just thought about that in housekeeping, somebody pinged me on it saying, "No, we can't get to it unless you're going home, off your network or doing it in private browser or something like that." So okay.
Hey Nick,
yeah,
there was another question in there that we haven't had an opportunity to duck, but I think the Magenium, as a great partner of ours, would probably be good for them to answer that one. So as you're working with customers overall, do you have any samples of MTR Visios, PowerPoint slides? I mean, it's about how do you design and help customers really understand the best way to be able to design for your rooms? Do you have that type of content that you provide as you're working with them? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. Yes, we do. So when we're working with organizations, the first thing we'll do is, we'll meet with you. We'll try to, if we can, we love to come to your space, right? If possible, and take a look at what all of your spaces look like. But we've been doing, I will tell you, in the past, 4 years, we've deployed over 16,000 Teams rooms. You may not be thinking they've been around that long, but they have been. And what we do is we've got standards that we have. So if it's something that's cookie cutter, we can help you with that. And we have designs that we can share with you on, hey, this is what a typical standard huddle room or small or medium, large room is. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll look at a customer's, their facility, and then we'll come up with the best standards for what's good for them. And we'll go through and we'll ask you, what matters, how do you want these rooms to work? What's the use case for them? And then we'll also talk to you about all of your hardware options, right? Because the hardware is going to complement that experience. So we do have that. We have a whole pro development that we work through, or an envisioning workshop to go through that. If we can't be at your space, if your building isn't open yet, we'll use photos to do that. And, we'll look at the photos of the room and we'll go through, and we really get down into where's the cabling that'll be going, because you want it to have a nice clean look. So we look at all of those things when we're working with you to come up with what that great experience is. And then typically what we like to do is create a catalog for you. So then you can have, if you have an end user says, oh, I have a conference room and I need a Teams room in it, you can quickly go, oh, that's a medium room. Here's the kit that we want for that. Or here's what we've planned for that. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. I wasn't the one who was asking the question.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah, if I didn't, please just put it in the chat, and I'm happy to share, my email with you or whatever, and happy to answer that. But we do have Visio diagrams. We have standard layouts. So that's the basis and the premise that we start everything, and then we can customize from there to what's good for your individual organization.
Great. Brandon's been answering a lot of questions that have popped up in chat as well, too. So.
Good. I'm glad, Nick. I wanted to make sure, you saw Brandon was on and a couple other people from my team.
All right, awesome. Okay, well, thank you, Peggy, so much for doing that. As I mentioned earlier, work with a Microsoft certified partner, to work with us and other vendors. They really know what they're doing. And so, in the follow up today, when I send out the survey, there's going to be a checkbox. Would you like to get more information on Teams rooms? If you hit that, we'll have Magenium Solutions follow up. And by Teams rooms, I mean everything: Teams room, Zoom room, all the stuff that we can
Yes.
kind of bring together for that
Thanks,
hybrid
Nick.
experience. You bet. Great. Thanks. Have a good afternoon.